Starter sets, beginner boxes, and the like are the best value in RPGs as far as I'm concerned. And that's why as soon as I saw this Zweihander fantasy horror RPG starter kit, I was very excited because this is an RPG I didn't expect that to happen with. It's been around for a while. The books for it, including the core and quite a few expansions, are all about this thick, hundreds of pages. So that is why this is all the more exciting to get people into a game when we have shelves of packed full of RPGs that we will never touch. It's my opinion that starter sets not only give you the most fighting chance of actually trying a game, but also present the best value by far. And not only because, something like this, which is heavy with materials and you can see what's inside on the back, and we'll crack it open in a second, but the fact that this is $30. Some starter sets go up to 60, but that's the exception. A lot of stuff they try to hit the $20 or $30 mark to hook people in and say, hey, give it a try, and if you like it, buy the full thing. But for that reason, some of the highest quality work and adventures goes into these starter sets. So you're guaranteed usually some of the best work if you're interested in a module to hook people in. You're often going to get dice, accessories like cards, pre-generated character sheets, the MVP of the rules, right? Like the thinnest slice across the board of the product line of what you need to try this game and get a taste for it and leave you wanting more. And so that's why it's such a good value, because if this starter set is not good, if it doesn't leave you wanting more, it's not really doing its job. So a lot of effort is put into that, and that is why I collect every single starter box for any RPG across the board I can get my hands on. Not only because they're something that it is fun to collect, looks good on the shelf, but because I believe it's the best value you can find when you're it's the best intro to a game, because that's its job. And I think they're really undervalued. So that's my secret. It's out. But these things also are kind of like owning an RPG board game. It's concise. It's in a box. It's meant to travel like this so that you can break it out and give it a try, wherever you are. No accessories needed. It's all self-contained. Anyway, that was a lot. This game is very interesting to me. It's grimdark. It's essentially kind of its own take on Warhammer Fantasy RPG, and while that does have its own supported line going on right now, and it's good in its own right, this game is also very interesting and I think worth checking out, especially given that it does have a starter set now, and there's lots of interesting settings that came out for it. Tried a few of those this year at Gen Con. So that, that's a lot of fun. There's a lot of material for it. There's a huge core book, but they have also produced a smaller, more digestible player's guide, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the player's guide that takes away that stuff that really gets in players' heads, or that information that they really shouldn't know about kind of secret points of the setting or the adventures in the back, and really just pares things down to what players need to know to make a character and to play the game, rules wise. Anyway, let's crack this open. This cover is awesome and kind of it's like a shot, a little bit of holographic on the font, actually, just barely perceivable. Now this says fantasy horror RPG, so, and I see some different elements here that maybe are in the expanded universe, not really part of the default setting. Straight away, we've got dice, 3d6 and 3d10. Not the cheapest money can buy. They look good. Custom symbols. Shiny. Good weight. And starter sets, if you ask me, should always include cool custom dice. Like, what better opportunity to get those out there? Player's guide with this hard to remove, tightly packed player's guide. Let's pull a few things. Oh wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Thick cardboard cover, nice feel on the pages. Nice quality here. Good smell. Nice like playing card smell, not like dirty factory ink paper smell that you get sometimes. This does have a good smell to it, and I'm weird about that. I know some other people are, but I really like the smell of new print material. Okay. Goes from your typical introduction with playing the game, what is an RPG, and the more modern like safety stuff. Talks about rolling the dice. We do have our creating player characters. That's probably going to be a bulk of this. Which you have quite a few races to choose from. I'm not familiar with the Ciabra. That's cool. Medicine, melee weapons, stunts, and some basic healing and death stuff. All important stuff, but just the core of what you need to make a character and start playing the game, which is awesome. I didn't see... okay. Class stuff there. Buying stuff. So I guess we'll get into that later. Do we have classes in here? And classes, they're in this kind of RPG, Zweihander and Warhammer Fantasy, there are tons of classes. They're like careers, jobs, and you progress in those. Etherealist. This is a class, I suppose, but not a pre-generated character. Okay, so I think what they're doing here is you're getting your classes in the form of these sheets, and you're gonna pick your own kind of race and statistics to go along with that and fill that out. That's interesting. I usually don't like to use the printed material in here because I have an idea that maybe I'll use these more than once, and I like to keep them as collector's stuff. I've done with a few box sets, like the D&D box set, I have used the papers, but people instantly spill stuff on them and they're destroyed, and you know, you might only get one session out of it. We did end up finishing that, so it was worth it. But with this, you know, it's going to be, what my point is, it's going to be hard to kind of print these bifold very specific sheets. So hopefully they have these free online, and even if you have to do 2 double-sided or staple 4 sheets to make these, I would prefer to print these out. The third page is a quick reference, so keep that in mind. And this is some info. So really, I guess it's really a 2-page front and back character sheet, but that seems to be how they're setting this up. You know, you could be a bounty hunter of any race, barber, surgeon, which is pretty hilarious, a bravo. And you get to do your stats, so they're not fully pre-generated characters. They're just a selection of careers that, you know, they wanted to present, at least in this box set, probably, that worked well with the adventure. Gambler, chosen, seems like a priest or sorcerer type. Gambler, investigator, jester, some classic Warhammer-esque art there. If you remember some of the older fantasy stuff, pugilist, a reeve, sellsword, nice. Look at the size of that thing. Smuggler, you know, I don't know, and somehow it just works in Warhammer, the black powder element and the kind of beyond the early medieval fantasy setting of dragons and magic, you know, more of a technology, gunpowder coming into play type setting. It works. It's just been part of it forever, so it really is evocative of the theme. Damage and perils tracker. And do these pop out? It looks like these pop out and maybe slide along your sheet. Let's see if there might be a separate thing, but it's possible they slide along. Yeah, right here I'm thinking that's a perfect fit. So, you're unhindered, imperiled, ignore skill, ignore 2 skills, ignore 3, and finally incapacitated. So that's fun. That slides along that frame there. I'm sure, that very few people will actually use that, but it's kind of cool. I like accessories like that with the starter sets. So fortune points, these must be tokens. I have read most of the rules for Zweihander. Not all of them, I wasn't able to get a full grasp on it within the 30 minutes to an hour that I spent reading it. And I've perused the book a bunch, and that's another reason I'm super happy about a starter set. It's really just going to give you the bare minimum of what you need to know so that you can actually play the game and decide if you want to go further. So these tokens, double-sided, skull, and it's like a memento mori, memento vivere. These cards are perforated. They are moderate injury cards, so unique moderate injuries. That's interesting. So I wonder if you draw these or you need to assign them based on a separate table. But quite a variety. Gut burster, chest wound, gain 3 corruption. An ally must treat injury until fully recuperated, reduce distances with ranged weapons by 3. I like that. Unique injuries are cool. They make interesting choice. Some games, maybe where you're taking wounds and all your rolls are reduced, can be no fun because you enter this death spiral, at least where you're losing specific abilities as you take injuries. You have an interesting decision to adjust your approach, and if you don't, you're not very creative and you die. So serious injuries. We went from moderate injuries to serious injuries to grievous injuries, and these are probably a subset. Oh, cool, spell cards. That is awesome. That's why these starter sets are great, and this leaves you wanting for the larger game if you get into it, like, hey, can I have a deck of spell cards? This is almost certainly not an exhaustive list of spells for Zweihander, especially considering 3 of them are blank on there. Considering 3 are blank on there, it's like, well, they must have wanted to limit it, or maybe those are all the spells. I really don't know. Clue cards, so that has to do with the campaign, I'm sure, and some specific items. Fancy ring, piece of gray thread. There's no information on those, so those are just reminder cards that tie to information in the book. What do we have here? Oh, a fairly large poster. I just framed some stuff for the gaming loft, so I might have to reconsider what I've got up there, because this, not bad. Not bad. Of course, nothing looks perfect ever again after it's been folded up to 8.5 by 11, but that's a cool poster. Now we have some actual game material. Let's see what we have. This is a large town map. The River Basque, West Shore. We've got a visitor on the east flank here who might come into frame. And a map without labels. Hey, buddy. All right. See ya. That's interesting. So, same map, just one side with labels, one side without. Very cool. Probably easier to kind of play with tokens on the side without labels, or maybe you just keep that information from players. I'm not sure. Specific locations for scenarios. Spoilers here. This is an interesting ship. You've got a bar, full tankard called. Let's rotate this. Dockyards, drawbridge, gridded out. Interesting. Are they all? Yeah, they are all gridded. Even though you have an isometric view, you can at least kind of count your distances, whether they're a meter, 5 foot, whatever. And again, same effect. No labels, labels. Manor. I won't go through all these, but lots of locations. So that bodes well for so much content. I mean, look at this. Like, even just a few clues and a couple combat maps makes a good starter set. This is so much material within a giant body here. That's awesome. Major spoilers, hopefully not. What do we have here? Trifold, like horizontal quad. 4 horizontal pages of a GM screen to create your perfect barrier there between you and the players. And I do keep those as a reference. Sometimes when I run online, I put them on top of the monitor kind of precariously, but awesome art here. I just love this crowded style of peasants and cutthroats and reeves and rogues. And look at this guy just chomping into steak. Rogue with a crossbow and dagger down here. Yeah, a lot of good characters. Like a ton of, like if you're making a character for your first time, just a ton of good material to look at there. And then all the references on the other side, of course, as needed. Movement actions. Check that out. This system is pretty good. The weapon properties have intrigued me. They don't really slot into a game like D&D necessarily, but they're kind of inspirational, along with stuff like these movement actions. Hustle, 1 times movement value, cost 1 AP. Maneuver 3 yards and avoid opportunity attacks for 2 AP. Action point system. That's good stuff. Take cover, charge, get up. It's all spelled out there. Action point cost. And Game Master's Secrets, Zweihander. This is I think the final thing in the box, other than some advertisement for some of the bigger setting books. That is fantastic. Like, when I look at a book, I need the art to inspire adventure. I've read enough science fiction and fantasy novels where I have the material, the head canon to create my own adventures, but to get inspired for some of the smaller stuff, it's really all about the art. Like to lay down this picture, I know what I'm getting into, and players see stuff like this, and they know the tone, and they know what they're getting into, and this alone can tell you a lot about how you're supposed to play this game, what you might encounter in this game, and the overall tone and setting of this game. It's gritty, it's harsh. Okay, so handling divine retribution stuff, so dealing with some of the mages. Hey buddy, I got a friend reading with me here. Fear and Terror, classic holdovers from your Warhammer fantasy, specifically Secrets of Swansea. So this is an adventure. We're getting into some adventure background. So it started off with a little handling of magic and probably some GM advice, and Constable Anya Dost, some dossiers, NPC characters for the adventure. And let's see, Secrets of Swansea continues. maybe 50 pages, 40 or 50 pages, wraps up, and then it looks like we go into a bestiary. And that's super handy too. Making your own monsters is fun and easy for some systems. Other systems, not so much, and you kind of want a menagerie to pull from. And these are a lot of humanoid guildsmen, folky, and so I assume maybe this is just a list limited to those needed within the adventure, because I didn't see any stat blocks within the adventure, but God, that says a lot. Zombies, a were-yak. So much good stuff. Witch Hammer Alkalite. Witch Hammer Fanatic, so some real faction specific NPCs based on the adventure in this book. So creature traits, and then again the maps. That's great to have 2 copies. And our list of injuries. So you do have, I think, references to everything in the books that are also reproduced on the references for like the maps and the spells and the injuries and stuff like that. And combat condition reference on the back. Let's see what we got here, Kitty. Advertisement for the core book, of course, that makes sense in a starter set. And the player's handbook, which is awesome that they do that, considering this is so massive. And main gauche. I assume I'm not pronouncing that, but this is the Grim and Perilous supplement. I think it's pretty grim and perilous already. Claim your free PDF. So there's that code. I will save this video. They are not set to post anyway, so there's no way to review this once I stop streaming. But just wanted to show all that off. I'm going to repack everything, the Game Master's book, which is really the adventure module, just a huge adventure. And I guarantee, taste notwithstanding, that it's going to be good and well thought out, because that's just what smart companies do for these things. The D&D starter set is one of the better 5e adventures, at least in its time. Really, the game didn't need any help, but that early campaign everybody was down on, but it was the adventure in the box set that really won a lot of people over and let them know that good there are good pre-written modules. So yeah, just repacking all this to review it. We have all the condition cards, and I'm super excited for the spell cards. I'll probably start punching those out as soon as I get off here. And tons of ways to be injured. Tons of careers that are not listed in the starter. That's really a big thing you're going to get out of the core book, but that's cool how they done this, because it leaves more choice. It's not a super simple game, so having a beginner box where there's still a little bit of character customization choice makes sense. That is fine. And just this really cool player's guide. And it's funny, I usually end up cherishing these small guides for myself more than the actual books. People will buy the big books and they're unwieldy, and players will end up owning a player guide or a big book, but this small guide is so handy and lightweight. These end up becoming more valuable to me than the larger books, even though you do need those larger books to reference. 90% of the time you're going to quickly flip into one of these to kind of find what you need. And that is why I love having those small rule books handy too. Anyway, just wanted to get a video out there and talk about this. It's really fun to pop these open, and thought I would share it. Cool. Thank you.